All right, so you guys, you're working towards your higher graphic communication assessments and exams.
Yeah.
I know some of you are probably a little bit intimidated
Yeah.
by all the content. Um,
Right.
we thought we would bring on an expert
Yeah.
to talk us
Glad
through
to be here.
some of these concepts. And specifically, we're going to focus on the DTP
Yeah.
and the design elements and principle side of
Yeah.
things. We've got some great materials like the examiner reports.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that by the end of this, you'll feel a bit more
Sure.
confident
Yeah.
and ready to take on your assessments. So
Right.
I thought we could dive right in,
Absolutely.
and maybe we can start with those
Yeah.
examiner reports.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like a lot of students probably avoid them.
Oh, right.
You know, they see them as a bit
Yeah, they can be a bit daunting.
daunting. Yeah.
Yes.
Like kind of a chore to read through. But they're so valuable.
They are actually.
Yeah. What do you think?
Oh, I think they're gold. You know? You should definitely be looking at those. They
Yeah.
give you really good insight into what the examiners
Exactly.
are looking for and the kind of things that students are tripping up on.
Yeah.
And the things that are doing really well. So,
Yeah.
I would definitely encourage students to have a look at those.
Well, and what are some of those things that you see,
Yeah.
as an examiner yourself? Like, what are some of the things where you think students are going wrong and maybe how they
Right.
could improve?
I would say the explain questions,
Okay.
where it's asking you to explain something.
Hmm.
Students tend to list facts.
Right.
So if it was saying explain how bleed is used, they might say
Yeah.
bleed is where the image goes beyond the trimmed edge of
Yeah.
the page.
And that's it.
Yeah, and that's not enough.
Yeah.
You need to say
Yeah.
why it's used. So what's the purpose of that? So it would be bleed is used to extend the image beyond the trimmed edge of the page.
Okay.
This ensures that when the
Yeah.
work is trimmed, there is no white edge showing,
Yeah.
and it makes it look more professional. Something
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
That's going to be cause and effect.
So like that why behind the what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really important thing.
So I guess it's not enough to just kind of regurgitate facts.
No.
You have to show that you actually
Yeah.
understand the purpose.
Understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why a designer
Mm-hmm.
would use that.
Would make those choices.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about some of the specific design principles? I know that that's a big
Yes.
part of the course.
It is.
And I'm wondering if you've seen kind of common mistakes that students make when it comes to those.
Yeah, I would say rhythm is one.
Okay.
A lot of students confuse rhythm with unity.
Rhythm
Yeah.
with unity.
Rhythm with unity.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, I think part of the problem is that
Yeah.
when I think of rhythm, I think of like music class.
I know. That's what everybody thinks of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not graphic design.
Not graphic design.
So how can we kind of
Yeah.
bridge that gap? How can we explain rhythm in a way
Okay.
that makes sense for graphic design?
Well, if you think about it, in music, rhythm is
Mhm.
the beat.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
pattern of sounds and silences.
Okay.
So in design, it's a visual pattern.
Okay.
So if you were
Yeah.
using a certain style of heading
Mhm.
and repeating that throughout a design,
Right.
or you were repeating an image or a shape,
Okay.
that would be creating visual rhythm.
So it's about that repetition and
Yeah.
that consistency.
Yeah. Okay.
And it creates that kind of flow and movement.
So like if I use the same font
Uh,
for all of my subheadings.
yes. And I place them in a consistent place
Exactly.
throughout my layout.
Yeah.
That's creating a rhythm.
That's creating a visual rhythm.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So I'm starting to get the beat now.
Great.
But then what's unity?
Okay.
How is that different from rhythm?
Okay, well, unity is about making sure that all the different elements in your design work together harmoniously.
Okay.
So it's like
Okay.
all the different ingredients in a cake coming together
Right, yeah.
to make a delicious cake.
Yeah.
It's about
I like that analogy.
using, the same font family or
Yeah.
similar colors or,
Okay.
making sure that everything kind of gels together.
So it's like the overall
Yeah.
harmony of the
Yeah.
design.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So rhythm is the beat.
Rhythm is the beat.
Unity is the
And unity is the harmony.
harmony.
Right.
Okay. All right. I think I've got that.
Good.
And I think it's really important to point out that, we're talking about these design principles
Yeah.
in relation to DTP.
Right.
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 So,
Yeah.
when you're looking at a layout,
Uh-huh.
it's important to understand how all of these principles are working together.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I know that that can be a bit challenging
Yeah.
because,
It is.
there's so much to consider.
It is. Yeah.
But we're going to break it down.
Yeah.
And hopefully by the end of this,
Yeah.
you'll feel like you have a really good grasp on
Yeah.
all of it.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
what about some of those other
Mhm.
principles then, like
Yeah.
alignment, contrast,
Yeah.
depth, dominance,
Yeah.
you know, the whole gang?
Yeah.
Um, what are some of the things that we should
Oh.
be thinking about when we're
Okay.
analyzing those in DTP?
Um, well, alignment is
Okay.
really important. And I always think it's quite a good one to start with because it makes such a difference to a layout.
Right.
Yeah?
And I remember when I first started designing,
Uh-huh.
I, I kind of ignored alignment.
Oh, really?
I was so focused on like
Yeah.
trying to make things look cool and exciting.
Yeah.
And I would just kind of put things wherever
Right?
I felt like they looked good.
Yeah.
And the result was it
Hmm.
just looked messy
Yeah.
and chaotic.
Chaotic.
And my eye didn't really know where to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. That's right. If there's no alignment, your eye doesn't know where to go. It just kind of jumps.
It's really hard to
Yeah.
read as well.
Yeah, it can be. It can make it a lot harder to
Yeah.
read. Yeah.
Okay. So alignment's not just about like
No.
making things look neat.
No, it's about guiding the reader's eye through
Yeah.
the information as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about contrast? I used to think contrast was
Yeah.
just about using different colors,
Well, it can be.
but it's more than that.
Yeah, it's about
Kinda.
making things stand out. So if you
Yeah.
think about
Yeah.
a website
Mm-hmm.
and all the text was the same size
Right.
and the same color
Yeah.
and the same font,
And no images.
and there were no images,
Yeah.
it would be really boring.
It would.
Yeah.
And hard to read.
Yeah, it would be hard to read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need that contrast to
You need contrast to
Athletic
create
grouping.
visual interest
visual interest.
and make certain things
Yeah.
stand out.
And I guess,
Yeah.
yeah, make some elements more important than others.
Yeah, exactly.
So like a bold headline
Yeah.
against a plain background.
Against a plain background.
That's a pretty classic
Yeah.
example of contrast.
That's a classic example of contrast.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not just about,
Yeah.
Making things look pretty.
No.
It's also about, like
Yeah.
our eyes are naturally drawn to
Yeah. Yeah.
areas of high contrast.
Yeah.
Like it's a survival thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know,
Back, if you think about it.
back in the day,
Yeah.
we needed to be able to spot predators,
Yeah.
in the jungle.
Yeah.
So our eyes are still kind of programmed to
Yeah,
do that,
yeah.
to look for those
Yeah.
areas of contrast.
That's right.
And designers can use that
Yeah.
to
Let me use that
make certain elements pop out.
to highlight certain elements.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So contrast is like tapping into our primal instincts,
It is? Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess
When
we're
we-
looking at
okay.
DTP layouts.
DTP layouts. It's not enough to just say, oh,
Yeah.
this is a light color
Yeah.
and this is a dark color.
Yeah.
We need to explain,
Yeah.
why that's been done.
Yeah. You need to explain the reason for it,
And the effect it has.
the effect that it has on the viewer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we've covered alignment,
Alignment.
contrast.
Contrast.
What about some of those
What else?
other
Right.
principles?
Okay. Depth.
Depth. Okay.
So depth's all about creating that illusion of 3 dimensions
Okay.
on a 2-dimensional surface.
So like using shadows and gradients to make things pop off the page?
You could use drop shadows. You could use gradients.
Yeah.
You could overlap elements.
Right.
You could use different font weights to create that kind of hierarchy as well.
So it's like creating a visual
yeah,
landscape within
it is.
design.
Yeah, it's creating that illusion of space and depth.
Okay. And I guess it ties back
It does, yeah.
to rhythm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Creating that
Because it creates flow.
flow and movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What about dominance?
Okay. Dominance. So dominance is all about creating a focal point
Okay.
in your design.
So like the main thing
yeah.
that you want the viewer to.
Yeah. The thing that your eye is drawn to first.
Right.
Yeah.
So does that mean just making something really big and bold?
It can be that. It can be size.
Yeah.
It can be color.
Okay.
It can be, an unusual shape. It can be,
So breaking the grid.
breaking the grid. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's anything that kind of makes that element stand out
Right.
from the rest of the design.
And it's about guiding the viewer's eye.
Yeah.
Right.
It is. Yeah.
To that most
Yeah.
important
To the most important information.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What about sketching? Yeah.
Sketching.
I think that's something that a lot of students kind of struggle with.
Yeah. A lot of students find sketching really difficult.
And especially because
Yeah.
nowadays we have all this fancy software.
I know.
You know,
Yeah.
it's easy to kind of rely on that.
Yeah. And everybody wants to jump on the computer straight away.
Right.
But sketching is so important.
Why is it so important?
Because it helps you to develop your ideas.
Okay.
It helps you to experiment with different layouts.
Yeah.
And it helps you to visualize your ideas before you even...
So it's not just about
Yeah.
creating pretty pictures.
No, it's not about creating a finished piece of artwork.
It's about that thinking process.
Yeah. It's about exploring your ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some tips
Okay.
for students who maybe struggle with sketching?
I would say practice.
Practice.
Practice, yeah. The more you practice, the better you'll get at it. Yeah.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sketching's all about
Right.
experimenting and trying things out.
Okay. And what about like pictorial sketch?
Pictorial sketching, that can be tricky.
Yeah. I always found that really hard. Like
Yeah.
drawing in 3D
Yeah.
just made my head spin.
Yeah. Well, you need to try and break down complex objects into simpler shapes.
Okay.
So, you know, think about the basic shapes,
Right.
like cubes, spheres, cones.
Yeah.
And then you can start to build up
Build on that.
your drawing from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess using a grid can be helpful as well.
A grid can be helpful.
Yeah.
Forgetting those
Proportions.
The proportions, right?
Right.
Yeah.
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 Okay. And there are some great digital
And there's some
sketching tools out there as well.
Yeah.
You know?
There are.
I love using a tablet to practice different
line weights and
weights and
perspectives and things.
perspectives.
But I guess it's important to be comfortable,
You need to be comfortable with both.
digital and traditional.
Yeah.
Because in the exam,
Yeah.
you're going to have
That's in the exam, it's pen and paper.
pen and paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So sketching is all about
it is
planning,
planning,
exploring ideas,
exploring,
visualizing.
visualizing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then once we've done all that,
Okay.
how do we actually make sure
So how do we then translate that into a really strong...
that our design
Yeah.
goes beyond just looking okay
So how do we make it...
and actually has that wow factor?
Yeah. We need to make sure we're applying those design principles effectively.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's important to remember that when the examiners are looking at your work, they're not just looking at the design.
Right.
They're looking for the thinking behind it.
So we need to be able to kind of explain our choices.
You need to be able to justify your design decisions.
Okay. And how do we do that?
Annotations.
Okay. Annotations.
Yeah.
So what should we be annotating? Should we be annotating like every single
No, you don't need to annotate every single
element on the page?
element.
Okay.
Just the key ones.
Okay.
The things that you think had the biggest impact on the overall design.
Okay. So like if I chose a particular font for the headline,
Yeah.
I would explain why I chose that font
Exactly.
and the effect I was hoping to achieve.
Yeah, and you need to be using the correct terminology as well. So, if you're talking about dominance, then say that you've used, a large font size or a contrasting color to create dominance.
So it's almost like writing a mini essay.
It's like writing a little...
about my design choices.
Yeah, a wee justification.
Okay.
Yeah.
But using visuals as well. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think I can handle that.
Good.
What about time management?
Okay, time management.
That's something that I always struggle with.
Yeah, well, time management is really important, both for your coursework and the exam.
Right.
You're working under timed conditions.
Yeah. And I always end up rushing.
Yeah.
And then I make silly mistakes.
Right. Well, the key is to plan your time effectively. So before you even start designing, make sure you understand the brief.
Right.
Make sure you know exactly what's required, and then create a timeline for yourself.
So it's like I'm creating my own little project plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess, it's important to be flexible as well.
You might need to adapt your plan
Right.
as you go along.
Because you might realize that you need more time for something
Yeah.
than you initially thought.
Yeah.
Right.
And practice working under timed conditions.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Set yourself
Get used to that.
a wee design challenge and give yourself an hour to do it.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
whatever the time limit is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that you're used to
Right.
working under pressure.
Okay, so we've covered, technical skills,
Yeah.
annotations, time management.
Mm.
Is there anything else that we should be thinking about?
Yeah, there is one more thing, actually, and that's your own personal voice as a designer.
My personal voice?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
What it means is bringing your own unique perspective and your creativity to your design work.
So it's about not just following the rules.
It is.
But actually...
It's about expressing yourself.
Putting my own spin on things.
Yeah.
But how do I actually show that
well,
in my coursework or exam?
It starts by choosing projects that you're genuinely interested in.
Right.
If you're passionate.
Because if I'm excited about the project, it's going to show.
If you're excited, it will show.
In my work.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Right.
Try a different thing.
Push the boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess it's about finding that balance.
Yeah. No, we're finding that balance between...
technical skills. Creativity.
And creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm feeling a lot more confident now about my assessments. And I think you've given me a lot to think about. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For all of your insights.
You're welcome.
And for everyone listening.
Yeah.
I hope you found this helpful.
Yeah, I hope so.
And best of luck.
Good luck, everybody.
With your assessments.
Yeah, we know you can do it.
We know you can.
Yeah.